Hi everyone, I'm Vishnu. I'm the founder and CEO of NT. NT is an encrypted cloud for your photos and more that is fully open source. Today I'll be talking to Colin Hayhurst, who is the CEO of Mojeek. Mojeek is an independent, unbiased search engine that does not track its users. In fact, Mojeek is over 20 years old and is one of the first to have had a no tracking policy for its users. And what is more interesting is that Mojeek is one of the very few search engines out there that actually crawls the internet and maintains its own indexes. So I'm super excited to be here talking to Colin today. Hello, Colin. It's great to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for taking all the time to talk and to have this conversation.
Hey, well, yeah, hello, Vishnu. Thanks for the invitation. Looking forward to our conversation. Yeah, so my name is Colin Hayhurst. I'm CEO of Mojeek, which is a independent search engine. So we're a small company. We built a search engine from the ground up, so we don't depend on anybody else's index. We built our own index. We actually built our own servers. Obviously, we've got our own crawler, we build our own index, we've got our own algorithms, and we're kind of the one of the very few real search engines in the world, and in fact, the only international one in Europe. We're an unusual company. It, the other thing that's different about Mojeek is that we don't do any tracking, so we're different from all the other search engines. We don't basically track any data. You can use it anonymously, and because our algorithms are built from the ground up, we've obviously you get very different results with Mojeek. So we're kind of an alternative source for information. We've got users internationally, literally across every country in the world. So we actually we don't support all languages, but support in a wide range of languages. So yeah, that's the company I work for. Just a bit of context. I mean, basically, I joined Mojeek 5 years ago as CEO, to help the founder basically turn his project, which he started many years ago, into a business. So we've been since I joined, we've sort of grown the traffic dramatically. We've grown our revenues. We've got a business model now. So I joined. This is kind of my sixth startup. So I've got a few grey hairs, as you can see. Did my first startup back in '88, software startup doing computational physics. Grew that business, bootstrapped it actually. We sold it to a NASDAQ business. And then I spent sort of 6 years helping other startups and small businesses. And then I did a travel startup, which we sold to TripAdvisor. I did a internet infrastructure company, which we got into Combinator on and grew that, and then that didn't work out, unfortunately. Then actually I went into academia and started doing technology transfer, and basically helping researchers in physics and maths. So we spun out a quantum computing company, did lots of AI, and so I did that for 6 years or so, and then basically I joined. We basically spun out an AI consulting company back in 2018, and so I was a co-founder of that. We actually got killed by that. We were doing consulting. We got killed by that with COVID because we literally lost every client and every hot prospect. Talked to us in April 2020, and said, "Let's talk in 6 months." So we decided to shut that down, and that's actually when I joined Mojeek. So that's a short version of my long career.
Yeah, that's great. So did you know the folks who were building Mojeek at that point, or like how did you run into them?
Yes, I knew of Mojeek because it's a local company where I'm based. I'm based near London. I'm the founder. We're actually a remote company. I've always been a remote company, but the founder's actually not, he's not that far from me. So I did know about Mojeek, basically through a local incubator that a business support organization that also supported them.
Okay, that's nice. And you mentioned YC, right? In what year, what batch were you in?
Summer 2012. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was an interesting. We were known as at that time as we were the batch that killed YC because they had all sorts of problems because they grew it to 82 companies, which doesn't seem like a lot now, but back then it was a massive growth, big jump up in size, and they said that things didn't work, and so actually straight after us, the next batch, they reduced the numbers again because said it wasn't working. We'd wrecked YC. I mean, it turns out when you look at it, actually, we're probably the most successful batch ever. So we
Uh-huh.
had, Coinbase, Instacart,
Okay.
Benchling, Zapier. So, we've had, it's been a very successful batch, but at the time it was, we were constantly being told we were broken YC. So that's funny. And that
So,
was at
so
the time,
what?
that was at the time actually when we the kind of a transition from when PG was kind of looking to back away from it, and we all knew Sam Altman was going to take over. It was it wasn't announced, but we all knew it was going to happen. So it was an interesting time.
Got it. And what was your experience like at that point with YC?
It was brutal, to be honest.
Okay.
The thing I always say about Y Combinator is fantastic. The people I met there are amazing, some amazing people. Super talented, super ambitious. The network's incredible. People in general, pretty much all the people around YC are fantastic. There's a couple of exceptions I won't name, but really fantastic. But the thing I think is that a lot of first time entrepreneurs, I guess in particular, would they kind of those who know about it would kind of dream to get in YC. But as I said to them, you shouldn't. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing because if you're, maybe it's changed, but I doubt it. But if you're not in the top 5 companies, 5, 10 companies, that you don't get the attention. So you might, if you're going to go in an incubator, you want to be an incubator where you're going to be one of the top companies, and then because the investors are like sheep, right? They'll just follow. So if you're one of the top companies there, everybody wants to invest in you. If you're not in one of the top companies, people don't want to know.
Got it. Okay, that's
And
a
I
new
guess
perspective.
I
Mhm.
mean, it wasn't. I didn't get as much benefit from it as others because I'd already done founded companies before. So if you're a first time founder, it's you learn a lot. I learned some things, particularly about Silicon Valley for culture, but I'd been supporting startups myself, mentoring them for 6 years before. So, but if you're a first time founder, you get a lot. But there's a lot of second time founders do YC. Even people do it 3 times, and that's really access to the network of people and the investors. So that's why
Mhm.
second time founders go in, I guess.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. So, but it's nice that now you're here building Mojeek, and it's a company that I look up to. And so you mentioned about the fact that you guys actually maintain your own independent index, and that you guys actually don't do any tracking. And so I don't know what actually makes Mojeek different from other private search engines like DuckDuckGo or Brave or Startpage.
Yeah, so well, I think there's actually hundreds of so-called search engines, but most of them are not search engines. They're DuckDuckGo, Startpage. They're using basically Bing, or I think Startpage is using Google, but they're also using Bing. So they're dependent on Microsoft and Google. They're using their index, using their API that deals with them. So then I call them search services, they're not really
Mhm.
search engines. So you're going to get similar results on there. That they are passing your queries and other data, which they'll probably deny to those companies. So, but the point is we're only using our index, and we're not passing our data to anybody.
Got it. So the next question is actually to satisfy my curiosity as a programmer because uh, building a crawler from ground up is a massive, like very ambitious goal, right? So what does the tech stack for Mojeek look like? Like what does a crawler run on?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, the actual difficult part is the actually building an index, not necessarily the crawler. The crawler. I mean, there are all sorts of problems involved in having a crawler, which for web search, obviously you're going to get blocked and so on. But actually, the biggest challenge with Majik, and the reason there aren't many search engines is because our founder Mark has managed to build an index which we can access and get results back from billions of
Uh,
pages in 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds. And that's really difficult. I mean, he's rewritten Wishing twice because he was, as the index size grew, he wasn't fast enough. So, what the real, most difficult part to build in a search engine is it's pretty easy to build a search engine for 10 million, 100 million pages. But when you get to the billion scale, it's a different challenge. You need a different type of architecture, which we've developed over many years. So that's the big difficulty. In terms of crawling, obviously, you're going to get blocked. If you start a crawler and start crawling at scale. We've had the Mojeek bot. Our crawler's been around for 20 years, and we always respect robots.txt. So we have it verified by Cloudflare. We're a respectable bot. So
Mhm.
we're not. So we're actually we're not we get access where a lot of other crawlers that try to do it at scale get blocked. So but the actual, the computational workload in terms of crawling is way less than serving the index.
I understood. So the reason I specifically talked about crawlers is because the internet is growing exponentially, especially with AI clubbing and all this synthetic data and whatnot. But even otherwise, it is always growing exponentially. So how do you plan to index like all of the backlog that's there, which is just growing? Do you plan to integrate or like partner with other search engines or like services, or do you think being independent is the way forward?
No, I mean, the whole point about Mojeek is to be independent. We obviously were known for our privacy, and we're very zealous about that. We literally don't collect any data about users. We don't sell it to anybody, won't pass it on to anybody. So that's fundamentally important. But that wasn't the only reason Mojeek was developed in the first place. The point was to have a search engine which gives completely different results. I mean, we could pivot to building, something which is a proxy of Google or Microsoft, but in the sense that's not our mission. What's the point in building another search? Or actually be a search service which
Mhm.
produces similar results to those services. So Magic's about privacy, but it is also fundamentally about having an independent source of alternative independent source of information. I mean, we're a great believer in diversity of information. We don't no, I think we don't subscribe to this sort of thesis that Larry Page has. There's one answer. He always dreams always to have one answer to a question. And our view is that for any question there should be multiple answers, or you should have access or consider multiple answers. So for us, it's having that independence is fundamental to our whole mission.
Got it. Got it. So there are multiple pieces of the puzzle, right? One is crawling, second is indexing, the third is the actual ranking. And I'm curious to know how your search algorithm actually works from a very high level of abstraction, and also more curious to know how you perceive bias and how you make sure that the results are unbiased for like whoever searching for things.
Yeah, so ranking obviously is a complex area. So essentially we have a ranking which is based on all sorts of signals, which we don't fiddle with. So we obviously we do intervene. So we do take down CSAM, child sexual abuse material, and other illegal content. But otherwise, we don't basically intervene in terms of the actual content that we actually rank. So we have at the core of Mojeek, and I'm sure it's still the case with Google and Bing. We have a what what's the equivalent of page rank? So it's what I would call a a query independent page authority score. Okay. Actually, our algorithm is different. We call our algorithm gravity, not page rank, because it is different, but it's similar to page rank. So that's
Mhm.
that's the most important one. But there's all sorts of things. So in there, obviously language and location. The difference with Mojeek is we don't do any personalization. So if two people put in the same query with the same language setting and the same country or location, they will get the same results. So we
Mhm.
don't personalize. So because obviously we're not collecting any signals about the actual individual user. So we call this, we think this is an important principle as well. We call it, formally it's called information neutrality. So if you put in the same search query, you should get the same search results. But obviously we adjust them for language and location. But though the point is those are also on the user's control. So if you want to change the language biasing or the location biasing. You can do that as well. Um, so that's another issue. Yeah, I mean, there's literally hundreds of signals. The we use Mojeek is like Google was originally and was for a long time. It's primarily a keyword based search engine, so it will look for matches on the words in the query with those in the documents. Okay,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and so it'll do a keyword matching. Um, and but we do have sort of beginning of last year, we introduced some semantic scoring. So I'll actually also do a match between the kind of the semantic score of the query and the semantic score of passages within in the document.
Mhm.
But it's not full semantic search, so we're not searching across the whole index semantically. That's something we're looking at now, but it's not something that we do yet. Um, we have a kind of a hybrid keyword with semantic matching on their system. Kind of keywords. The interesting thing is that keyword matching is sometimes semantic matching is better, and sometimes keyword matching is better. So so that's another reason you'll get very different results with Mojeek, because we're keyword matching. So you have to use it a little bit differently. Um,
Correct.
you know, looking forward, we kind of want to retain a hybrid because so we can get the value from both types of ranking.
Understood. So just now you mentioned that the results are actually the rankings are independent of the query, is it right?
The rankings, no, no. The rankings are independent of the user. So
Got it.
yeah, yeah. So
Got it. But you do customize them based on the actual keywords, right? Like it's,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah. The main
right.
thing you're looking for is a match. The primary thing. Okay, the primary thing is a match between the keywords in the query and the keywords in the document. So that's the primary matching.
Mhm.
And then there's sort of I suppose the biggest. uh, Well, I don't know. It depends on the query. So everything's so independent. But the gravity scoring, that's the page authority scoring is a big
Mhm.
factor. And then you've got location, you've got language, you've got obviously, authority of the page based on, what other pages are linked to it,
Got it. So the
um,
reason I was curious about the page authority bit was I was wondering if it would be possible for a page like Wikipedia or TechCrunch, which actually has really high domain authority, to supersede a smaller website, let's say NT, for example. So if I were to search for NT photos, would a Wikipedia article or a TechCrunch article
mm.
come above our own landing page? Is what I was curious about.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you were to take a Wikipedia page and put it on your website, just word for word, you're
Mhm.
not that page isn't going to have the same authority because people aren't linking to that page for
Right,
start,
right, right.
right? So yeah, it's so yeah, so that the authority is a big weighting. As I said, we use something very similar to PageRank, but it's not the same. And obviously, the way that uh, you can set up that authority ranking, can have a different scaling. So
Mhm.
our scaling tends to by observation. We don't know what Google does, right? But by observation, I think they've got a much heavier weighting on the big authority sites than you have on Mojeek. So if you do a search on Mojeek and then on Google, you're much more likely to come up with long tail results on Mojeek than you are on Google.
Got it. Got it. This is interesting. Thanks. And so a lot of what you were talking about so far is about respecting the privacy of the consumers and not tracking. And so now at the same time, you guys actually don't charge the consumers, right? Mojeek is free for everyone to use. So how is Mojeek sustaining itself financially?
Yeah, so our business model is two things. So it's contextual ads. So they're ads which are based just on the query and language and location. Basically, what we used to call AdWords. So that's ads which are relevant to query. And then our main source at the moment thing we're focused on is our API. So other people use our API, get access to our search results, and they're using that for different types of applications.
Got it. Got it. And right now is Mojeek bootstrapped or is there VC funding involved? Or
No, so we're funded by angel investors. We're not VC funded. We've been
Mhm.
funded by actually independent sort of UK based angels who's sort of been very been patient with looking for a return. So yeah, we kind of look to avoid going with the VCs because then they'll have other plans for us. So it's been a lot. We're kind of we're not in a rush to provide the world with an independent search index.
Got it. Got it. And you've played that game before, right? You've been in YC. So how do you perceive VC funding in like the specific area of like consumer privacy tech?
I think VC funding is for if you want to scale fast. That would
Uh-huh.
be my one sentence summary.
And do you think this is a space which can uh, yield those like hockey stick growths?
Sorry,
Uh,
what space?
do you think consumer privacy tech is a space which can yield those hockey stick growths that the VCs are looking for?
Well, I mean, what our aim isn't to give a good return to the VCs. So our aim is to provide a independent search index and with privacy. So, we're not going to chase. It's not for us about chasing faster growth. It's about building a sustainable business, which is
Mhm.
will be around for a long time, and which doesn't can stay as Mojeek and provide this privacy and independent results. So if we could go down a VC route and maybe scale faster and then they'd expect us to sell in a few years, and so then the whole mission of Mojeek would be lost. So that's not the
Right.
road we want to go down.
Got it. So, see, it's an unconventional path that I think companies like Mojeek or Ente, for that matter, are taking in terms of how we build a company. And building a company in itself is very hard. And there are challenges that I face, but I would imagine your challenges to be very different. And I'm actually just curious to hear your side of the story as a guy who's running a company which is free and ethical and is just trying to protect the privacy of the folks who are using it.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question? I missed the.
That what are the challenges that you face as a CEO who's
Oh,
running a company like Mojeek?
yeah, so well, the challenges for us are, one where we're kind of international, so we're not going after we're not going after a niche. We're not a B to, that are sort of we've got customers across the world, so and we're not focused on any particular industry. So it's obviously if you go after a particular industry sector, or a particular territory, that's always easier. It's probably
Mhm,
a way I'd advise most startups to go. Um, the other big challenge. Well, obviously we talked already about the technical challenges of building a billion scale search engine. So that's those are immense, but we kind of one of the few people who has overcome that. On the other side, the big challenge is distribution. So what's the access point for search engines? Is browsers, right?
mhm,
And who controls all the browser technology? Oh, is Chromium or so Chrome. So
mhm,
so actually the distribution that Google in particular has, and well, and also Bing has, with Edge and Windows, is actually is probably is the biggest challenge in growing any search engine or search service. I'm sure if you asked Gabriel at DuckDuckGo, he would come up with a similar answer, because it's hard. So for instance, um, to give an example for us, we don't have much usage on Apple systems because Safari basically there's a closed list. So obviously Google is the default search engine of choice, and they pay above $20 billion a year to be the default search choice, and that's for a good reason. Um, but there are typically it varies by country. In most countries, there's like kind of four other choices, and all those four other choices are all basically well, it's basically Bing. In most countries, it's Bing, and then three Bing proxies.
mhm,
But then the point is the list is closed, so you can't add Mojeek to that list. So we have so using Mojeek on Safari is not possible. You have to go directly to Mojeek. Okay. Now,
mhm,
you can. So let's contrast that with Chrome. So at least on Chrome, they've also got a fixed choice list. But the point is, you can add Mojeek to that list. Okay, it takes a lot more clicks, but those people who want to use Mojeek can actually do that.
Mhm.
Um, so that's where the biggest problem is in terms of I would say the biggest problem in the business is actually distribution. So getting awareness is a challenge because of the international nature of it. But then having got an awareness, how do you? It's it's uh, you know getting Mojeek as your default is difficult or impossible on some browsers. So that's what I think in a sense, those of us in the industry have known that for forever.
Mhm.
But it's kind of been proven in court because Google have just lost this is what the DOJ took the Google to court about, and they've just lost the case. Was it in November?
Mhm.
Um, Proved that they've actually been acting illegally in that respect, in terms of their agreements with Apple and Samsung, and the list is long of those people who they set up these default agreements with. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge.
Right. And I guess an interesting thing, the smaller search engines are, I mean, an approach that they're taking is to actually build their own browser. Like Brave has a browser, DuckDuckGo has a browser, Kagi now has a browser. So,
Yeah.
is Mojeek planning to build a browser?
No, I mean we're not. I guess we're not a big enough team to consider that taking that on. I would imagine that's something we do in future. But that doesn't change the fact you've still got to have. How do you get your browser out there? How do you distribute your browser
Mhm.
when you've got Microsoft and in particular Google actually dominating the browser space?
Mhm. Right. I guess Brave has done an exceedingly good job, or at least it seems that way, that
Yeah,
they've done a
yeah,
good
and I
job.
think I mean there's a proof in a sense. The biggest reason that Brave Search has grown very well since they launched it is that because they already had a not a significant user base for their browser.
Mhm. Right. Right. And so you also mentioned that this is not the first company that you're running, that you've been doing this for a while. This is not your first rodeo. So, what is are there any mistakes that you've made while running Mojeek specifically that you kind of go back and you wish you could fix?
Yeah, so oh boy, yeah, so many mistakes in the past. Yeah, it's what can I think of an example? Yeah, I mean, actually, funnily enough, the company that I got into Y Combinator with was probably where we made the biggest mistake there. In a sense, it was a combination of uh, we were we were unlucky perhaps, or no, were we unlucky? I don't know. I explained the story anyway. We kind of made a mistake. So there were two aspects. So we basically built a service which is basically infrastructure for PHP applications. So this is like if you know Heroku, which
Mhm.
started was built for Ruby on Rails. So we built basically like Heroku for PHP, and that was popular. We got a lot of users very fast. The mistake we made was we decided to branch out and support other languages too early. So we started supporting Python and Ruby and others.
Okay.
We should have stuck to PHP.
Uh-huh.
And to be fair, I had a bit of a vociferous debate with Paul Graham about this at the time, and he told us to do that, and he was right. We should have focused on that.
Uh-huh.
So go after better to go after a smaller market and focus on it and do that well. And so, but in another sense, we didn't fail because of that. We failed because what happened was there was we essentially we had a data center partner, so we were using actually sort of Europe's biggest cloud provider, which is called a French company called OVH. So
Great.
we're using bare metal. But essentially, in order to sell our infrastructure, because we weren't really Heroku for PHP because we were actually doing the infrastructure level, so it was basically the whole stack. And then people could put WordPress or any PHP application on top of it and scale it. Um, but the issue was our customers that they were buying. Whenever we got a new customer, we had to basically buy them. We sold them some virtual machines using our software, but we had to buy an IP address for them.
Mhm.
And what happened was, I think this is probably about 2 years into our when we were in essentially, and just before we were going to launch our new product, which we had a lot of interest, we had a big waiting list for. Our OVH decided that they wouldn't sell us IP addresses, so we couldn't
Okay.
sell our products. We couldn't sell our products because we couldn't sell IP addresses. I mean, it was nothing to do with us. They didn't come after us. There was some other reason that they decided not to sell IP addresses, but that totally that really killed us. I mean, that threw us back massively. From we never recovered from that. So I guess there's a good lesson there. I think which is not talked a lot about in startups is that we kind of knew that was a risk from the
Mhm.
very start. We thought we didn't expect it to come along so fast. We expected that to be a problem for us like 5 years down the line. I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted what happened there, but um, we kind of we ignored that risk and we just ploughed on, and it suddenly hit us and killed us. And I think this is one of the things that it's in a sense, to do a startup, you've got to be risk averse. Right?
Um,
You're not going to do, people who are risk averse don't do startups. And but I think there's, people don't, if you're in a big business, then they're obsessed with risk assessments, right? Government projects that are obsessed with risk assessments. If you don't have done government funding, you realize that you have to do risk assessments as a big part of the application. But I think there's two. The thing is, in startups, I think you don't. In general, I've seen that people don't actually assess their risks enough. I mean, if you considered all the risks, then you wouldn't do a startup at all. But I think the balance is too little that way, and I don't really haven't read or heard about many sort of people advising startups actually saying do a risk assessment. I mean, you can do a risk assessment of your startup in half an hour probably, right? But I think it's too often never done. You
right.
don't want to
Right.
go there. So yeah, I guess that made my top level piece of advice for startups. But
Got it.
yeah, unconventional piece of advice for startups, perhaps do a risk assessment.
Right. Right. No, we are very risk averse as a company. Like at least right
Yeah,
like for example, we have like multiple cloud providers because we kind of paranoid and we feel somebody's going to cut us off eventually. So
yeah,
there
yeah,
is
yeah.
a certain level of over engineering that happens, and that. But yeah, I think to each company its own, right? And like you said, I do think being a founder is being a CEO is a crash course on making very expensive mistakes that are very hard to recover from. So yeah, it's a learning curve. And on that note, right, is like how do you take care of your mental health? I'm guessing this is a hard thing that you're doing. Right? So how
How
do you
do I?
keep yourself sane?
Oh, right, yeah, good question. So yeah, I've battled with that over many years, to be honest. And so I think the yeah, it's been a process of evolution. I mean, I used to, unfortunately, I don't do it now because for various reasons. But I guess a big way I dealt with that in the past was I kind of played sport at a pretty high level. I played badminton at a very high level, so I used to. And the great thing about that was it just totally, completely switched me off. I mean, doing startups, you don't sleep, right? You wake up a
Hmm.
bit light, you think of something, you're worrying all night, whatever. And so actually, the top level pieces get sleep. Sleep is the killer. I think. So I think that my main thing was to try and manage my sleep. It was then, playing sport was great for me, worked well for me. Another kind of therapy was actually, I don't do it so much now, but I used to do a lot of cooking
Hmm.
because I found that's a great way to switch off. Yeah, find ways to switch off, and now I'm much better. I guess I'm more disciplined in terms of you know um, getting away from the desk and not going back when I don't need to. But it's been a long 4 decades, 4 decades of trying to deal with my mental health. It's not been easy. But the last one is, I mean, it's the one everybody mentions, meditation. I found, there's a period when I found I turned to meditation, and that helped enormously. So I have my own particular way of doing meditation. It's unique to me. It's one I've kind of discovered myself. So that was probably the biggest unlock for me. But I think all those all those things can help. But yeah, it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. But it's great to hear. Like this is great info that you shared. That I aspire to be where you are. Hopefully, it won't take me decades. But yeah, let's see.
So no, yeah.
Right. Uh, so okay, so going back to tech, right? That was one of those questions I had earlier, but then we kind of deviated. Like, how do you think LLMs are impacting the future of search engines, like how we search and like how people query? And I'm curious to know if or how Mojeek plans to integrate that into that technology to actually benefit experience.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when people heard about ChatGPT, the question was always asked by people on, and certainly the press and the media and so on, is like, is AI going to kill search? I think we never thought that. I mean, as we pointed out, search is fundamental to the AI. So I mean, the search indexes are using to build to train the models. This is never admitted, but I'm sure it is the case. And then obviously RAG has become very popular and is used as along with AI. So the need for search engines hasn't gone away. We were kind of aware of this from very early. We actually saw ChatGPT wasn't a surprise to me because I've been using other things like character I was using way before chat, well, not way before, 6 months before ChatGPT. And also we talked to quite a few of these companies. They approached us about our index. So Meta used our API for a chatbot. And so Meta, actually, it's not well known, but Meta were the people who pioneered RAG. So there's a group there that pioneered RAG using search engines to they use Mojeek to do that. So that's that. We couldn't talk about that for a couple of years because that was done under an NDA, but it's now public. So we've been aware of what's been going on. I think I see them as being complementary. It's going back to this thing about there's not one answer. I think we still need a diversity of results. We need up-to-date results. So I don't think we've seen. Funnily enough, our growth rates went up quite significantly when ChatGPT came out in the months afterwards. And so we're seeing a real interest or even a demand for search results. There's a lot of people don't like AI at all.
Wow.
So in a sense, that's a bit of interesting situation for us. Is that we have we put in as you've probably seen on Mojeek, we have an AI summary or what we call a Mojeek summary. It's not, where we do is we kind of we use a language model, we use Mixtral to actually at the moment to actually look at the search results and provide a text output with citations alongside the search results. That we do that just as a complement to help you support the usage of the search results, to point you to them more quickly. But we've kind of had an interesting reaction to that from our user base. Like some of our users absolutely love it, and some people absolutely hate it. So we have people saying, "Don't use AI, don't use AI," and some people saying, "Use more AI, use more AI." So yeah, it's an interesting point. And I'm not sure, I'm not sure where we'll go with that. I mean, obviously we're using, we've been using machine learning algorithms for various things like spotting illegal content and so on. Various techniques under the hood for years. So we're not unfamiliar with using machine learning. But I mean, I think we still, going back to the earlier point about search engines are important. Our mission is to stay as a search engine, and provide that because we think it's that's really important. And yeah, in a sense, it's becoming more important in the age of AI, where obviously AI models tend to bake in a lot of bias into them, providing one opinion, and we think that's really unhealthy.
Uh-huh. Right, right. So then, what are you excited for? Like, what are your plans for the future of Mojeek, and what are you looking forward to?
Right now, so we're kind of working on full semantic search. We've got a kind of an alpha product for maps. So we've built maps from the ground up. We've yeah, so that's the main projects that we're working at the moment. So that's quite, quite enough for a small team to be working on.
But how big is the team, by the way?
Oh, we're just 4 people.
Cool. Okay, then you guys are making massive impact with just like such a small team. That's great.
Yeah.
And is there any broader technology trends that you're optimistic about or like excited for in general?
So yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's. I think right now we're kind of excited about what we can do in terms of doing semantic search. I mean, if we try to do semantic search, full semantic. I'm talking about full semantic search. 5 years ago, it would have been a lot more difficult. I think there's a lot the possibilities of what we can do now are very different. I think the challenge always for us is like how we could do all sorts of things, but how do we what what do we take on? What can we do with the limited resources we have? So and how do we keep Mojeek, so it's got fast, the latency is low. So we haven't how do we build new models without thousands of GPUs? How do we provide a search engine to many users without having a huge electricity bill? It's all about how do we do things efficiently and fast and cheaply. That's all the challenge for us. So I think a lot of the I suppose there's a lot of sort of R&D, well, not R&D, but developments that have come out in which, particularly in AI, and which actually can help us do that. So
Got it.
there's a lot of stuff we can leverage.
Understood. Cool. So that's actually all the questions that I had for you. And do you have any words for anyone that who might be listening or watching to this?
So say again,
Do you have any words for anyone who might be listening or watching this?
well, I guess, what can I say? Yeah, so I guess maybe two things, like one, I think the first thing is, which I'm sure you're going to agree with, is that if you're listening to that and you're concerned about your privacy, there are lots of choices out there where you can use tools like Mojeek for search, onto for photos, where you don't need to use these tools from the big companies. You don't need to be you know give away your data or have your data exposed to these companies. There's a lot of choice out there. It's just that these tools aren't so well known. So there's plenty of browsers which don't follow the same ethical principles that our companies follow. And so I'd encourage people to go out there and look for them. There's I use a so I think that's the main point. And some these tools are fantastic. They're just not as well known as some of the ones from the big companies, and that's just awareness. But there's some amazing tools out there, so do that. What's the second piece of advice? I guess I don't know. Maybe going back to startups is that I think startups is a for me, it's been my passion, my life is my career, if you like. So I think there's doing startups is an incredible journey. It's if you're thinking about doing one, then do it before it's too late. It's not easy to do if you've got a mortgage, you've got kids and things. So if you're going to do it, and I think doing a startup is an incredible way to learn fast. I think you'll learn things at 5 times the rate you'll go and learn it in a corporate. So I recommend it. It's a roller coaster. It's not for everybody. I don't not everybody should be doing startups, but I think if you got a niche to do a startup, it's an amazing experience. It's tough and it's fantastic, but go do it. And that's a bit, if you're going to have an impact on the world in business, that's the way to have an impact on the world. So, don't be afraid, just have a go. What's the worst that can happen?
Right. 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 Thanks, Colin. Thank you so much for joining us. It's very rarely that I get to talk to someone who's as tenured as you are. So this is very interesting to hear your perspective on building companies and building Mojeek. And I hope some of those who are listening will actually check out Mojeek.com and check out the product and give Colin and team some feedback like what they could do better, what's actually working really well for you. Because like you said, right, if we truly do believe or like, wish for the internet to be a better, nicer, safer place, it's important to support companies like Mojeek to thrive and to help them succeed. And yeah, thanks again for joining the call, Colin. Like, thank you so much, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Vishnu. It's been fun talking with you, and all the best with Onto.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.